Some good news out of Saudi Arabia. As you guys know, women don't have a lot of rights in the country. However, recently they were not only allowed to start voting in elections, they're also allowed to run as candidates and get elected. Now, for the first time, women in Saudi Arabia voted, and 20 women were voted into public office. Now, don't get too excited because the election was for 2/3 seats in councils that have no lawmaking or national powers. But we're starting a conversation, okay? We're making some progress. It's crazy that Saudi Arabia is so behind when it comes to things like this, but they are. Now, 130,000 women registered to vote, and 978 ran as candidates in this historic election. There are about 1.35 million registered male voters in the country, just to kind of compare the two genders. Saudi Arabia is the last country in the world to open its ballots to women. So that's what's going on. Now, remember, women cannot drive in Saudi Arabia. Authorities in the country have still not changed their minds on that issue. And the country's Grand Mufti described women's involvement in politics as, quote, opening the door to evil. Okay, so all these evil countries running around letting women vote. They're crazy.
Yeah, that's the real problem.
I know, that's the real problem, right? Giving women a voice. We need to stop that. I have very strong feelings about Saudi Arabia, mostly because of the fact that the U.S. gives Saudi Arabia a pass when it comes to everything, including human rights violations and, you know, some of the ways that they torture and murder their own people for breaking laws, especially their religious laws. And we still do business with them because we want their oil, and we'll turn a blind eye to anything that they might do that we find objectionable in any other country.
Right.
Right. So I like that there's some progress on this front. I think it's laughable that they're running for positions that have no power and people are celebrating that. Give the people the power. That doesn't just mean women. That means men and women. And when you have a fundamental interpretation of a religion and you use that fundamental interpretation in order to run a country, you have human rights violations like this.
By default, yeah.
Yes. So make your point, Colin.
Yeah, well, so I agree. I would add something though, that it's very, very easy to get frustrated, because it is frustrating, obviously, and ideally we want it to be a different situation. But I tend to look at it a little bit optimistically, because within the context of Saudi Arabia, this is huge. And within our context, it's nothing. It's like, come on, guys, do a little bit more than this. But within that context, a shift like this is a major thing. And it could lead to more shifts down the line. But even this little movement within a context where they weren't able to participate in any way, that's a big deal. And so I tend to look at it, I try to look at it at least from the context of where it actually is, because we have completely different standards here, thankfully. And even though it's not perfect, it's closer to what we believe in morally. So looking at it from that standpoint, it actually is a really great thing to see, and I'm hoping that it continues to move in that direction.
Yeah, glass half full, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Rational
like
optimism.
All right, I like that. All right, do you think it's good to encourage all people to vote, even if they're not necessarily educated on the issues or the candidates? Now, here in the U.S., just to give you a little more context, we urge everyone to vote, even if they have no idea what's going on. Do you think that's good for a democratic process?
I've gone back and forth on this, and I actually just changed my mind on it a couple of months ago. I haven't voted for a while. I haven't really felt the need to. I didn't feel like my vote mattered or counted, and I didn't feel I was as educated as I should be to vote. Like, I'm out of the country all the time. I have no idea who a lot of the local politicians are, things like that. But my mind has changed a little bit because of the fact that we all have megaphones now, and the fact that if enough people of a certain age demographic vote, even if their vote in that matter doesn't really matter, politicians tend to cater to them more as they're making decisions because they know what's popular, they know who their constituents are, and those statistics matter. So the numbers of people who come out and vote actually do matter, even if the votes themselves don't. So for me, I will be voting. I'll be encouraging other people to vote for whoever.
Yeah.
But I want more young people to get out and vote in particular, so that we will be catered to in the way that like boomers and Gen Xers are right now.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, in an ideal scenario, I would ensure that, or at least encourage everyone to pay attention to what's happening in the world. It's impacting you. And so you have some political power, you have some clout, and you could change the system that's kind of holding you down right now. So in a perfect world, that would happen. But we don't live in a perfect world, and we don't have perfect information, right? Now, thankfully, the internet has opened the floodgates to information that's so important to be a responsible member of the democratic process. But not everyone's intellectually curious, and not everyone has the resources to sit down and learn all the issues. With that said, I'm still on the fence. I've had some pretty strong comments in the past about how I don't think how I don't think people who are ignorant on the issues should vote. I'm still leaning in that direction, I gotta be honest with you, because I see way too many people in middle America voting against their own best interests because they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
The poorest people in the country continuously voting for the politicians that will tax them, their fair share, but won't tax corporations what they're supposed to be taxed. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world.
I can definitely understand that argument.
Yeah. So tell us what you guys think. I'm sure a lot of you disagree with me. I want to hear your thoughts, so comment in the section below, and we'll see you guys soon.